Hi, everybody. I'm Anna Hagan. This is Next In Sales, a next level podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you guys to my special guest today. I have Barbara Pawar from Avanade. She is the managing director of Northeast Sales. Barbara, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much, Anna. It's great to be here.
Of course. Well, I would love if you could give a little bit of background on yourself. Obviously, you and I have gotten to know each other a little bit, but I'd love if our viewers could get to know you a little bit better before we dive right in.
Yeah, before starting at Avanade in December, I was at a startup at Verity where I ran North America sales. And then prior to that, I was at Amazon where I ran different sales teams across different industries. I also spent time at Gartner. And Bloomberg is where I really started my sales career and came up from an individual contributor to a sales manager and really learned to love sales and the business of sales and the contribution that sales makes not only to a company, but to an economy. And then prior to that, I worked in politics. So very different career change, but sales is in my heart and soul, and I'm really excited to talk about it this afternoon.
Awesome. Well, and like you mentioned, you've spent quite a bit of time in sales leadership roles. And so, I'm kind of curious, what, in your opinion, is the most common mistake that you've seen people make when making that transition from an IC to a leadership position in sales for the first time?
It's such a great question because it's something that we don't think about. A lot of times in leadership, we take our top performing sales reps and we make them sales managers, thinking that they'll just replicate what they're doing and the successes they're seeing with their team. And many times that is the case, but a lot of times it's a completely different skill set. And there are people who really are passionate about being individual contributors and really spending their time in front of clients, solving key mission critical problems, and really focusing on how they can challenge their customer to think differently about their problems and identifying innovative solutions.
Absolutely.
And then with sales management, you have people that really get that passion from coaching and teaching others. And what's so different between the two roles is that a lot of times when we move into a leadership role, we have a tendency as new sales managers to think that everyone on our team is going to sell exactly like we did. And they're going to be motivated the exact same way that we were motivated as an IC. And salespeople are very dynamic. They're not only motivated by money. They may be motivated by a promotion, or they may be motivated by the opportunity to mentor others, or they really have that passion for solving key client problems and to be working in the most innovative brands. So there could be that disconnect in how their manager is motivating them because that's how the manager was motivating when he or she was an IC. And the last point I would say is what works for one IC and what caused the success for that individual contributor is very different across profiles of different salespeople. So if you have a sales manager that had a very strict process, they may want to implement that process on their new team, thinking that all salespeople are going to modify what they're doing to that new process when top performing salespeople, there's many different ways that they can be successful. There's different profiles of successful salespeople, and we've seen many of those profiles. And so I think that's a key ingredient in coming into a new sales management role is two things: ensuring that you understand how each person on the team is motivated, because it can be very different than how you were motivated as an IC, and that what made you successful in an IC role could be very different for each person on your team. And you have to understand and identify what's making each person successful so you can drive more of those behaviors out of them.
Well, and I think it all goes back to like, what are your motivations for wanting to be in leadership? Is it because you feel like it's the next step? Is it because you just want the title? Do you want to level up in your career? Or is it because you want to be a coach for other people? Because I think a lot of times, you know, we use the analogy of like, the ICs are the star players, and then the leadership team are the coaches. And it's like really understanding what you want to get out of your career and what your goals are, as opposed to just trying to get to the next step.
Absolutely. Because I think when you take on any role, if it's a new role or you're moving to a different business unit, you're selling a different product line, you're going to a different industry, or you're becoming a sales manager, I think it's important to think about, why do I want to make this move? And how am I going to contribute in this role? And not only
100%.
think about, what is this role going to bring to me and my career, but thinking about, what are you going to contribute to this role? And do you have that passion and that energy for it? So for the example of sales leadership, yes, it can be an opportunity to elevate your career and your brand, maybe get a title change and other benefits. But it is really an opportunity to take a step back and serve others. And it's really a role focused on, how are you going to take a team who, as we spoke about just a few minutes ago, can be very dynamic, and different levels of performance, different levels of passion and interest, different levels of skill set and experience, and motivate them to a common goal.
Yeah.
So it's so much more than coaching. It's so much more than replicating a success that you've seen maybe in your role as an IC. It can be very challenging. And so the best way to think about, is this role for me, is to start taking on opportunities where you're simulating a management role. Maybe it's an opportunity to partner with a rep on a deal, from origination and building that pipeline, converting that lead to close, and seeing how you feel about that. And maybe onboarding some new reps and taking a lower performer and coaching them to a place where they're now performing and able to work more independently. And if you get passion from that, then leadership is absolutely a role for you. If you find that to be challenging or exhausting, and you're just missing that opportunity to be in front of clients, or you're going to client meetings with reps that you're mentoring and taking over the meeting, then maybe that's not a career passion for you. And so I think it's always helpful, no matter what kind of role you're taking on, if you take steps earlier on to see if there's small things that you can do to start working in that role, to see if that's something that you want to do permanently.
Absolutely. Well, and I can hear the passion in your voice that you have for your own team just talking about it. And so, you know, I'm kind of curious, maybe on the other side of not just up-leveling people, but bringing people onto your team, what do you think are maybe the biggest pain points that hiring managers are seeing today when it comes to hiring for sales organizations?
I think for hiring, what's amazing is there's such great talent out there. And there's so many really great companies with amazing, innovative cultures. I think what's challenging is that, and I've been guilty of this when I was a newer sales manager, you want to hire the person where you know the company that they work, and you know that there's a really great training ground for pipeline development and cold calling and whatever it is that's important to you that you're missing. You may want to think about, oh, I know these 3 companies really focus on metrics and really train their teams well on building pipeline. So I'm going to recruit from those companies. And they're focusing on hiring top performers and bringing them quickly into the business. What makes
Mhm.
hiring challenging now, we also have to hire for culture fit. And when I say culture fit, I mean, we have to ensure that we're creating diverse teams. We have to have racial diversity, gender diversity. We have to have diversity of
1000%.
thought. And if we're just thinking of, oh, I know these companies have the skill set in their team that I'm looking for, I'm going to recruit from those companies, you're missing out on a whole level of talent that's out there. And so I think focusing on hiring people that are going to contribute to a positive culture and people that really have a passion for sales, and you can hear it in their voice and they share their excitement about deals that they're really proud of and clients that they've been able to solve really innovative problems through their ideas, and people who learn from their colleagues. And
Yeah.
that's why creating diverse teams is so important, is because you want your colleagues, your teams to be learning from each other. And some of the best experiences that we have in our growth in our career is what we see our colleagues do and learning from them. And that's why hiring for diversity, all levels of diversity, is so critically important. So we're continuing to learn and foster that positive collaboration and culture on the team. And so that's what I think makes it challenging, is because we have to consciously prioritize that. And I
Right.
think that's so important. And that's something that I love about Avanade, is that we do that at Avanade, and we ensure that we bring on people that really want to learn from each other and really want to teach us something new. And so
Absolutely.
I think that's what makes it makes hiring fun and makes it more dynamic.
I love that you said hiring is fun because I also think that hiring is fun. I mean,
Of course you would.
it's what I live and breathe.
Yeah.
Well, and let me ask you this, I know that you've done a ton of work in hiring. So when in your experience has it made sense to work with a third party agency like Next Level?
Yeah. I think a really key component of having a agency is, if you are, like we were just talking about, diversity of thought and ensuring
Mhm.
that you have a diverse team. And it's very easy to send a note to your team and say, hey, we're hiring for this role, send me resumes of people you know. That's very easy. And you asked me
Yeah.
earlier, is hiring more challenging now? And we talked about ensuring that you're developing a diverse team. When you take the easy route and say, let's just hire people that we already know, it's eliminating such a diverse pool of candidates that could be really great on the team. We just don't know about them because we just asked for referrals. We got 10 resumes
Mhm.
back. We interviewed 6, and we hired someone. That's easy, that's
Yeah.
quick, but is that creating the right experience for a company?
And does it
But
diversify and expand your thoughts that you have available to you on your team, as you mentioned before?
exactly. And there's so many companies out there that are doing really great things. There are people that are in fractional roles
Mhm.
that they may be supporting several different companies. There are people in transition. And so there's so much great talent out there, and ensuring that you are casting a wide net and making sure that you have a very robust candidate pool. I think that's where agencies come in and provide value.
Absolutely. Well, and you've been running your own teams for quite some time. So I imagine that data and analytics is something that you hold near and dear to your heart. So let me ask you, how do you leverage data and technology to drive better results for your sales team?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And at Amazon, we're a data focused company. Bloomberg, I was so lucky to start my career in a data driven company and a company that kind of birthed financial data. And at Avanade, we're partly owned by Microsoft. And the benefit of that is you can leverage Microsoft products, Power BI. I think for sales leaders, what's key is to start your day with a dashboard. Looking at your Power BI dashboard or whatever tool that you use for your data and really understanding where your team is. What is your gap for the month, gap for the year? Where are people performing? What are your projections for the year? What are you trending year over year? Really understand where your business is on a daily basis. And then also understand where your pipeline is. There's so many times when you're in leadership roles where you're in a meeting and it's completely unrelated to pipeline or forecasts or year over year, and you'll get asked a random question. And if you're able to articulate where your business is off the cuff, it's going to make you feel more confident in your business and also help you understand where the gaps are. Where data becomes really important is you start to see trends.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a key customer area, the key industry that your company has, for example, and you're noticing week over week a decline in year over year growth or 2-year CAGR or whatever your metric is, you're able to quickly identify that and then put a plan in place and be proactive to understand how can we grow in that area. I also think data is important to ensure that you're teaching the teams to be accurate. I think so much of sales data is predicated on how good the input of that data is by the reps and having a culture where you have data transparency, you have strong data hygiene, I think helps in making better decisions, because I'm a firm believer in you have to make decisions based on data.
Mm-hmm.
And if you make a decision based on data, it takes a lot of bias out. It also ensures that you're not making a decision based on what you hope to happen or what you assume will happen. You're clearly looking at data presented and making a decision that way. And if you have accurate data, the date data, and if you can trust that the people inputting that data for you is focused on hygiene, then you can make better decisions. But I've seen too many decisions happen or numbers are delivered with data that's not accurate. And that's really unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that even here at Next Level, like we really evangelize is like making sure that everything is correctly, the documentation is correct, because how can we make overall decisions for our team? We can't actually see how the team is performing at a whole.
Yeah, exactly. And you bring up a good point, because if you don't have accurate data, then you're not able to make a decision and you don't have a clear picture. And that affects other decisions that you need to make in the future. How do you know if you have to hire? How do you know what to deliver to your board on what your income is going to be or your cost of sale? If you don't have that data, then it's very hard to report on it and you can't make decisions, or you're making decisions based on inaccurate data.
So let me ask you this. You know, you've been in sales for quite some time, Barbara. So what changes would you like to see in sales culture maybe over the next 5 years?
I would love to see a sales culture where there's a focus on, and I love the challenger sale methodology, and I love the focus on sales teams as being thought leaders. And they're not just there to quarterback the team that is delivering for the client, or not, they're not there to shape the solution and lead a process or solve a problem. They're there to provide innovative solutions to solve key mission critical client issues. And I love when I have salespeople on my team who are key partners for their clients, and they're there on client site, they're going to lunch, they're maybe badged contractors, and they're really focused on being that client partner. It's so much deeper than selling an opportunity or selling a solution or selling a headcount and then going on to the next opportunity. They're key members of the team, and they're really challenging their clients to think a little bit differently about their problems, and also innovate in ways that the client didn't think of, because the salesperson has the benefit of working with different clients in that same industry or in that same region. So I think that's what makes selling so powerful. And I'd love to see that be even more and more of a focus in the next half a decade.
Absolutely. The focus of just helping more and being more intentional. I love that you brought that up. And I hear the passion in your voice that you have for those people on your team who are doing those kinds of things. So that's really exciting. Well, thanks so much, Barbara, for being here with me today. Do you have any last advice that you'd like to share with our viewers before we wrap?
I think for anyone interested in sales leadership, really think about what it is that you want to get out of the role, why you want to be a leader, how you want to contribute, and find ways to start doing that now. And really understand how other people are motivated. I think that would help drive a lot of excitement in that role. And I also want to share that if you're not interested in sales leadership and you really have that passion for selling, there is so much career opportunity in that. And it is so great when I hear people that want to take on larger clients, more complex deals, and really do some cool work. That is just as important as being a sales leader. And that is a key role to success in any company. You're the superheroes of the company. And so think about how important that is and how you want to continue to contribute in that way in your career. And if you love sales and have that passion for it, the sky's the limit in the number of opportunities that are available to high-performing salespeople that just really love it.
100%. As somebody who's worked in sales recruiting for a while, I can 100% vouch for what Barbara is saying. Well, thank you so much again for being on here with me today, Barbara.
I had so much fun.
Me too. Well, everybody who's listening in, again, this is Nxt In Sales. And if you liked what either Barbara or I had to say today, I would very much recommend liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing this with your network, family, friends, anyone who you feel could benefit from this conversation. And I will see you again next week.